If you haven't played the original Hades recently or at all, Hades 2 starts fairly abruptly.
Death to Kronos.
You're introduced to Melinoe, daughter of Hades and Persephone, and sister to the first game's hero Zagreus, and set on your way with little other context than an urgent charge to kill your grandfather, Kronos, the Titan of Time.
Little one, do not presume to think your movements are invisible to me.
It's been a couple years since I played Hades, and I didn't play Hades 2 in early access at all because I was saving myself for the main event, so it did feel a bit like being adrift for the first couple hours or so.
Do not be disappointed. You fought well.
This feeling fades fast, though, as I grew to love an excellent and varied cast of mostly new characters inhabiting the night-shrouded crossroads between the realms of the living and the dead.
You don't have to be a witch to find the magic in this world, but it does help.
Supergiant's character designs remain at the absolute peak of the mountain, with their distinctive silhouettes, strident but never garish use of color, inhabiting the night-shrouded crossroads between the realms of the living and the dead.
Don't even try and sneak by.
Supergiant's character designs remain at the absolute peak of the mountain, with their distinctive silhouettes, strident but never garish use of color, clever interpretations of classic myths, and tiny, delightful details placed just for the super nerds who can quote the Odyssey from memory.
We shall find Hades, merit it down, and return the gold twice a year.
They're still represented by static images, but this time the artists have built in extra subtle touches of animation that bring the characters to life that much more, like the glint of green light on Mel's lower lip.
Catch your mind drifting back to your concerns?
Nemesis is probably my favorite of the newcomers, with the buff avatar of Vengeance presenting an aloof rival who was so very satisfying to eventually turn into a friend and more through a long and complicated arc. Hecate plays the mentor and reluctant caregiver to Mel, always self-conscious of being compared to the heroine's mother while secretly wishing she could call her a daughter. There are so many layers here. Not even the archetypical Olympians are one-dimensional, and the voice acting is top-notch for everyone.
Can't guarantee a weapon worthy of the gods is going to be enough for you to see this through. But I can guarantee you're getting the very best.
Moonlight goddess and all. Oh, come on.
I require some aid.
Layers is really the key word when it comes to Hades 2, and I don't just mean the ones you fight through to get to the next boss. Similar to the first game, things start simple, but more mechanics and characters and methods of progression get added at a generous but not overwhelming pace with each run, failed or completed. Even sitting north of 50 hours and 50 runs, I don't think I've unlocked close to everything there is to unlock, and I've never had a night pass so far that there wasn't something new to look at. It's not just new dialogue snippets either, although there are an almost absurd number of those for so many different character combinations and contexts, where they react to specific things you've done in your most recent run or whichever god's boons you're carrying. Meaningful, permanent upgrades from Hecate's Cauldron, tricky challenge runs from Chaos itself, a clever revision of the original's heat system, a simple farming minigame, adorable animal familiars who can help you in and outside of combat, all added to the epic at a pace that always makes them an exciting treat without feeling like one too many things to keep track of. Maybe the biggest single leap forward for the sequel is the fact that Mel has two paths in front of her each night, after you unlock the second one fairly early on.
Commencing.
Down toward Tartarus to pursue the ultimate villain, Kronos, or up to break the siege his allies have placed on Mount Olympus. Each consists of 4 regions with their own bosses, and the way the areas flow together is rarely as simple as going from one meadow to the next. In the surface city of Epira, for instance, there's a town square with 10 streets leading off into 10 different battles, and you can pick which 6 of them to visit, and which rewards to earn, in which order, to bring down the barrier blocking your progress. I really likes how stuff like this changes up the usual pick door number 1 or door number 2 routine, and there are similar but different approaches in other areas as well. But the real genius here is that alternating between the 2 paths creates double the variety possible in subsequent runs. Doing a Tartarus dive and then an Olympus climb, you won't be seeing any of the same areas or bosses back to back. It's not like the first Hades ever got really stale, but this one definitely won't when this choice is always on the table. And you aren't forced to go through every Tartarus level to see the first Olympus one, which means it'll take longer to get tired of them. It's a very smart approach because if there's a particular boss on one route who's really driving you up the wall, Eris, you can switch to the other one for a bit and farm some upgrade materials before trying to break down that wall with your head once again. You will have to vanquish both routes multiple times eventually to see the end of the story, of course. Zipping around and zapping monsters as Mel is just as snappy and delightful as it was as Zagreus, but also feels distinct. I almost think of it like playing the same RPG with a different character class. If Zagreus was a warrior, Mel is kind of a mage, or more appropriately, a witch, with a stronger emphasis on clever battlefield control and an in-depth mana system to manage. Her varied arsenal can change this up a lot, from a pair of twirling torches that turn you into a ballerina of death, to an enormous off axe that rewards careful timing with terrifying damage. Each of these comes with multiple unlockable variations with unique abilities and cool designs, turning the axe into a scythe, for instance, and your choice of weapon is a defining moment at the beginning of every run. No matter which you take, you always have access to a weapon-agnostic cast ability as well, which binds foes in a magic circle that can slow them down and damage them. Many of the challenging new enemies are built with this in mind, requiring you to really think about where and when to place your trap if you want to master Mel's fighting style. It's very thematic and made me think about her battles quite differently than I would with Zagreus, which is awesome.
I'm ready to put on a show!
When it comes to the randomized boons various gods will offer, it's like Supergiant's designers took every piece of feedback I could have given them about those in the original and used that to mirror polish these new and returning ones.
The seas themselves are simpler to control.
At this point, there is no Olympian whose sigil I will just re-roll immediately. They all have some really cool and powerful stuff that slots nicely into my preferred playstyle. Some are still more desirable than others, naturally.
Anybody rush you, except me.
Hermes is still my boy, though darting around at warp speed isn't quite as overpowered as it was in Zag's day. But even a few like Poseidon, who I used to kind of sigh when he showed up, have kept their thematic identity while also offering perks I actually want to take, such as speeding up the collection of valuable resources for unlocking more upgrades. There's an interesting new consideration of elemental affinities, where boons will all grant one of a handful of elemental essences, and other boons will activate based on how many of that specific essence you have, another layer to consider when planning out a build. Selene is a major standout among the gods and titans in that her moon blessings give you an ultimate ability called a Hex that can range from slowing down time to blasting foes with lunar energy. Each time you pick her symbol, you get to put points into a powerful and semi-randomized talent tree for that specific hex in order to make its effects last longer, hit harder, recharge faster, and some other really creative modifiers. There are so many new ways to fish for synergies and discover gloriously overpowered builds, but I rarely have a run that makes me feel weak or bored. For my ovals, Darren Korb is probably the best video game composer working right now, and Hades 2 is, as the kids would say, a common Korb W. I would even call it a step up from the first Hades musically, as his blend of ghostly melodic motifs, lo-fi hip-hop vibes, and soaring nods to the heroic and mythical threw up a soundscape that is so distinctly his own. Longtime collaborating vocalist Ashley Barrett returns as Artemis for Moonlight Guide Us, my favorite of the new tracks, joined by Mel's voice actor, Judy Alice Lee, to create a hauntingly uplifting harmony that brings tears to my eyes.
Another epic victory!
Kind of sums up how I feel about Hades 2 overall. Things are a lot right now, and this is a place I like to go to hang out with my witchy friends for a while.
Few places such as this where two realms meet.
Of course, I also have to shout out the musical Scylla and the Sirens boss fight, featuring